Hello everyone and welcome back to my channel. Today we are predicting the Booker Prize longlist. I say that we're predicting. I'm never very good at predicting, although I did not too bad with the Women's Prize, the most recent Women's Prize. But with the Booker Prize, this is my first time actually trying to predict what would be on the long list and not just like being surprised by what arrives. I've been watching so many other people's videos about the Booker Prize, predicting it, talking about it, and it's just gotten me really excited. So I wanted to do my own little prediction / discussion video because I have been watching other people's videos. I haven't done the thing where you don't watch anyone else's predictions until you make your own and then you watch theirs because I'm too nosy and I love to know what everyone's talking about. So I have been watching other people's videos and I will link everybody that I'm going to talk about in the description as well. So if you're in the mood to check out people talking about the Booker Prize, if you like following prizes a lot, then go and check out all of these channels because they are all doing this type of content. But for me, the tricky thing about the Booker Prize long list is I just know it's going to be probably 13 books that I have not read or heard of. Like maybe I will have heard of one or two, and that is not a problem for me. I enjoy that. Obviously I get to discover a whole host of new books, but it means I can't do very accurate predictions because I can only predict things that I've known or heard about or other people are talking about or that I've already read. So this is going to be a mix of stuff that I haven't read, some stuff that I have that I don't, it might make it on there, like it's definitely eligible, it's got a lot of buzz and it's good, but it's going to be a real mix on this list. So I'm going to do this video in different parts and I'm going to be talking about some books that I loved and really hope will be on the long list, some that I've just heard about that I maybe own and I'm going to read soon and I think might make it, and then I'm also going to be talking about other people's predictions and from their lists which ones sounded the most interesting and exciting to me that I also then hope is going to be on the long list. So let's start off this video talking about the ones that I've actually read that I do hope do make it onto the long list. Let's start off with one that I've actually just recently finished, and that is Universality by Natasha Brown. I was kind of nervous to read this book because I read her previous book and absolutely loved it. It's literally sitting behind me on my favourite shelf. It's called Assembly and I absolutely loved that book. I pushed it into everybody's hands as soon as I'd finished reading it. And then I'd seen really mixed reviews about this, especially on Goodreads. This has got like a really low rating on Goodreads currently, and I'd seen lots of people talking about, oh, it's not as good as Assembly, but I didn't know anything else about it, so I went in and I loved it. I don't know what's going on because normally it's the other way around for me. Normally everybody raves about a book and then I read it and I don't like it. This one, I really liked it. It's got exactly the kind of, it's a very different story to Assembly, but it's got all of the ingredients that I loved from Assembly, which is having this like key, like it's so difficult to explain, but I just feel like Natasha Brown has this insight into what is currently going on within our society and culture. It just feels like she is so plugged in with exactly like what is the current cultural conversation happening, and I just loved the way that she explored the different themes within this book. So this book basically starts off with this journal article about this incident that happened at an illegal rave where someone was beaten over the head with a gold bar. That's not a spoiler, that happens like right at the beginning of this book. This book then moves away from that article, that quite sensationalist article where you're introduced to various different characters, and then you kind of move through the second half of the book where you are following like these real people who were mentioned in this article. So like her previous book, this isn't a novel in any like normal sense of like following one character and having a beginning, middle and an end. This is a social commentary, but when you know that going in, especially from her previous book, I do think the way that she's doing it in this book is so fresh and new and exciting. Because she writes these deeply flawed characters so well, you can't help but like identify with at least one of them. And it was really interesting because who I most identified with or like was getting the most kind of annoyed with when I was reading it, because it was touching on things from my real life, was completely different to the character that really stood out to my friend when they were reading it. And I just find that I think everyone will pull something different from this book, and I absolutely loved it. I don't get all of the negative reviews for it, and I do hope that this does make it onto the Booker long list. Next up, a book that I do hope makes it onto the long list is Glyph by Ali Smith. This was actually the first Ali Smith book that I'd ever read, and I read this relatively recently. And I've actually seen a few things about the fact that Ali Smith doesn't always want to be put forward to prizes, but but I don't know if that's going to be the case this year or if they would like let someone else from their imprint like be put forward. But to me, this does scream Booker Prize Longlist. I really enjoyed this book. It was about these two young siblings and it's very confusing. It's set in this kind of dystopian world that's very, at the beginning it feels very murky, very foggy. You're not sure what time and place it's being set in, but basically it's set in this world where some people have been designated as like undesirables and everybody else is very plugged into this technology. And there's lots of dystopian themes in here that are very familiar to us, but I just really loved the way that this was written, and it's definitely not leaning like the exciting dystopian adventure story. It's very much leaning the literary kind of exploration of these characters and really digging into this theme, but I really appreciated it, and I think that this one also, I've liked it more and more as time's gone on. It's something that has really stayed with me. So this is one that I do hope makes it onto the long list. I'm not sure if that's likely or not, but to me, it does scream long list approved. And then the final one that I have read and that I loved and that I hope does make it onto the long list is Dream Hotel. I've seen a couple of other people talking about this one. I'm not sure also the likelihood that this one would make it. It was longlisted for the Women's Prize, but it didn't make the shortlist, which is very upsetting because it was one of my favourites on that long list, and to be honest, I wasn't happy with the shortlist anyway for the Women's Prize. Dream Hotel is again kind of a dystopian style story. Basically, you're following the story of this woman and she's coming back from a work trip and she gets stopped at the airport because she has been identified as someone who is likely to commit a crime in the future. So for her own safety and the safety of her family, she is being taken into this kind of detention centre. It's not called a prison, but it's very prison-like because she's not allowed to leave, and she only has to stay there for 2 weeks. But as you're following this story, it's not as simple as it seems, and there are constantly things that are keeping her in this facility. For me, this book just really blended this like social commentary on the one side and the dystopian aspects and an exploration of these themes with also a fun and engaging and quite like fast-paced plot. It felt like a suffocating story because you are in this facility with this main character, and I think that there was a huge amount of tension within this book that I really enjoyed and it kept me reading. So I read this really fast, and overall I just think it really accomplished what it set out to do. I'm not sure if this will make it to the long list, but I hope to see it there because I absolutely loved it. So next up, let's talk about books that I have read that I think might make it onto the long list, but that I didn't personally like. Because this isn't just a list of like my favourite, like my 13 top books. This is like stuff that I do think might make it, has had a lot of buzz, lots of other people like them. They just weren't personally great for me. So let's talk about the next 3 books that I have read didn't particularly like. Others like I liked, but I just wouldn't like say I loved them. So starting off with one of those, I liked but I didn't love this book. So firstly, let's talk about Beautyland. This one, I don't think this actually, like this is like if I had to rank my levels of like predictions and like if I think that stuff's gonna make it on there, I would say this is probably not very likely. It has had a lot of buzz, a lot of people talking about this one. So the blurb of this book talks about the fact that this is from the perspective of an alien who is sent down to Earth to kind of gather information on what it's like to be human to send back to their homeland. I think in some ways that would put some people off. I love a sci-fi, so that wouldn't put me off at all, but also I think that it's not actually giving you an accurate description of what this book really is, and also the cover I think doesn't do it quite justice as well. This is a very slow, quite like slice of life character story about this young girl who grows up into a woman, and about, it's basically a coming of age story. I've actually just been sitting here checking if this one is even eligible because it came out in 2024, but I think it's if they come out in the UK in 2025 they are still eligible. So I believe this is still eligible. I don't know, like I might be completely wrong about this entire list. But anyway, about Beautyland, I think this kind of the blurb and the background like give you a bit of a different vibe to what this book actually is. It's pretty slow as well, and there are some really beautiful reflections about life and about growing up and family and love. but it's not very much like alien sci-fi kind of vibe. This one will just depend on your own like humor and your own like sensibilities as well, of how much you're connecting to this one, because I can see it is very beautifully written. It just didn't like particularly hit very hard for me, this one. So, but I do think it might make it. I don't know, lots of people do love this one. Next up, we have a couple also from the Women's Prize, because honestly a lot of these are going to be overlapped with the Women's Prize for me, because a lot of the books that I read like very quickly as they were kind of being released. I don't often read that many books that are being really like released really soon, so I like a lot of these are going to like be overlapping with the Women's Prize list for me. So the other two that I've seen talk about and that might make it, firstly, nesting. This one I didn't personally get on with, but it's been like a fan favourite from like so many other people. Lots of people were upset that this didn't win the Women's Prize. I've got a whole discussion about the Women's Prize, by the way. If you didn't see all my videos on the Women's Prize, I did vlogs and I did like wrap-ups and I did like rankings and all that kind of fun stuff that I also want to do for the Booker Prize, which will be really, really fun. But I went into a lot more detail about my thoughts about that and my experience of reading nesting as well. I would say definitely don't let my review of it being like a 3-star read put you off reading this, because I do think it's more of like a reaction that I had to the book versus like what most people would have. So this is a story all about a woman who is leaving a domestic abuse situation with her 2 young children, but she is living in Ireland and there is a housing crisis going on, and you're basically following her as she is struggling to survive and raise her children in this very like hostile environment. And then finally, the other one that I had a similar experience with on the Women's Prize is Good Girl. This one might make it. I don't know. I'm kind of just throwing it in here because it's a book that I've read. It's a book that is eligible. This book is about a young woman growing up in Berlin. She is struggling between the two worlds of trying to be a good girl from the perspective of her like Afghanistani immigrant parents living in Berlin, but then also getting really tied up with the nightclub dancing like after hours scene in Berlin as well. Like she also gets mixed up in a kind of very toxic relationship. This one, I just feel like it set out to do something, and for me it missed the mark and it kind of failed. Lots of people did love this one. I didn't like it that much, so this might make it onto the Booker Prize long list. I wouldn't be that surprised, but once again, I have all my thoughts on Good Girl in those vlogs that I was previously talking about as well, if you want to see what I thought about that when I was reading them. So that is 3 books that I loved and that I would like to see on the list. 3 books that I've also read that might make it on the list, that I'm adding them to my predictions, but, you know, didn't love that much. Next, let's talk about a couple of books that I have on my TBR that I've been sent that I hope do make it, because I'm very excited to read them. So firstly, let's talk about Ripeness by Sarah Moss. This one I was so pleased to be sent. This is an ARC copy, and this was published in May of this year. And I've previously read a book from Sarah Moss that I loved, which was Ghost Wall. I absolutely loved that book, and it came completely out of nowhere to me, like complete surprise favorite of mine. So I'm really excited to read this one, although this sounds very different to Ghost Wall. So Ripeness is about Edith, and I think that there is maybe 2 timelines, or maybe it's just following her currently. So in this book, you're following Edith, who in the 60s was just out of school and going to visit her newly pregnant sister in rural Italy. And then there is a current timeline where decades later, Edith is like divorced and then helping her friend, who is going to meet someone who's claiming to be her brother, like her friend's brother. I don't know how these 2 things are connecting at all. I'm not getting much at all from the blurb, which I enjoy. I like not getting anything from the blurb. That makes me more excited. But also, even on the back of this story, I mean, it's from the Daily Mail, this quote, so like take that with a pinch of salt, but it says, "Is Sarah Moss the best British writer to be never nominated for the Booker?" So maybe it's her year. I'd be very excited if this was nominated, because obviously it's on my priority TBR and I want to be reading this really soon. Also, my friend has already started reading this, or maybe they finished reading it now, but they have told me that it was really, really good and they really were enjoying it. So excited to get to this one. Hope it does get onto the long list, because I've already got it. That would be really pleasant for me. Less books to find and purchase and beg for from publishers from me if that one is already on there. And then the second one that I also want to talk about is Days of Light by Megan Hunter. I went to a book event actually where Megan Hunter was there, and there was a reading from the I think from the beginning of this book. It was an actress actually who was doing the reading for this book, and it sounded really, really good. So the reading for the beginning of this book was basically following this young girl in 1938, and she's living in this house with her like very kind of cool bohemian family, and they're waiting for someone to arrive. And then the description says that this chronicles 6 pivotal days over 6 decades, moves through the Second World War and across the 20th century on a radiant journey through a life lived in pursuit of love and in search of an answer. So I don't know what this is going to really be about. I don't know what the vibe is. It was very kind of like softly written from memory. Like, also the actress did a great job of reading this out. It definitely had a like certain style to it, though it's kind of good or bad for me personally, but I do think that screams Booker to me. And then on the front the quote says, "This is One Day," written by Virginia Woolf. I love both One Day, the book, and Virginia Woolf, so can't wait to read this one, and I hope that it does make it onto the long list. So that is 8 different books that I am predicting to be on the long list. Next, let's talk about some of the other booktubers' predictions. So these are from the videos that I've been watching from my fellow booktubers, which I absolutely love watching all of their videos on predicting the long list. It gets me so excited, and also I love when they've already read the books and they can recommend them. So firstly, let's start with Ben from Ben Reads Good. In Ben's prediction video, which you should all go and watch, they will be linked in the description, he talks about this book called Helm by Sarah Hall, and immediately I was so intrigued, and I'd never heard of this book before, and I've actually never even heard of this author before. But basically Helm is about this wind. There's a wind is like this very kind of like ferocious wind that exists within this valley, and this book is going through history from the time of like the Neolithic tribes all the way up to the present day, as people are interacting with this wind in different ways. This sounds so intriguing. I'm really excited to read this one. I love books that heavily focus on nature, and I love stories that are not just like multi-generational, but like really span a huge amount of time as well. I find them so interesting. So this is one that I immediately put on my TBR, and I now do hope that it makes the long list. Next up, let's talk about Scott's predictions from Gunpowder, Fiction and Plot. So there was 2 books mainly from Scott's video that I immediately wrote down that I really wanted to get to and read, and that I've put now on my own predictions because he was so convincing. Firstly, we have We Pretty Pieces of Flesh, and I had heard of this previously from some of Scott's other videos, and I've seen other people talking about this book, and it sounds so intriguing. And this one I've now just become convinced is definitely going to be on the long list because I've just been seeing so many people talking about it. So this is a debut novel, which I think I haven't got too many well, there's a few debuts actually that I've talked about, but I do think there'll be quite a share, like a high proportion of debuts on the Booker Prize list, or I hope there is anyway. So this book is following a group of young girls, working class girls, who are growing up in Yorkshire in the early noughties. I've only seen amazing reviews for this, like 4 stars, 5 stars, like most people are giving this 5 stars and saying it's a new favourite. I don't want to know anything else about it, I just want to read this one. I've already got it as a library hold on my Libby account. I'm waiting for that to come in, because even if this is not longlisted, then I have to read this book. But I do definitely feel like it's like got a good chance of being longlisted. So my next suggestion / recommendation for my predictions comes from Eric Carl Anderson. So Eric described this book as one of his new favourite books, and it's giving me the push I need to finally pick this up, because I've seen it so many places and people have given it such rave reviews, and that is Our Evenings. I believe this book is following a young man, or you're starting off with him as a young man. He is mixed race and gay, and you are following him throughout his life, I think all the way through maybe till the end of his life, I'm not sure, but I think it's a portrait of this man. And the way that Eric was describing it, I just think this one's going to be really moving. I think I'm going to be really sucked into this story, and I would just be so surprised if this one doesn't make it onto the long list. This is another one that I immediately put down to read as soon as possible to try and get ahead of it, because I'm that convinced that this is going to be on the long list. So if you've read this one, then let me know what you think, because I'd love to know. I also think that this, I might be wrong, this might be the first book on the list by a male author. that I'm talking about, let me look at my list. Are these all by non-male authors? I think they might be. At first glance, I think they are. So, you know, you've got to have representation. We'll have one for the boys on here. This one is the only one for the boys. So next up on my predictions list, I was watching a video from Shelley, and she was talking about this book called The Land in Winter. And apparently this also has just recently won the Walter Scott Historical Fiction Prize. And so I was looking this up, and it sounds really, really intriguing. So this was set over the period of the Big Freeze in the 60s, and you're basically following, I think, two different couples in the wake of this very, very cold winter. But the book starts off with this young man in an asylum, like taking his own life, but then I don't think you're following him and his story, you're following these other couples. This has got also rave reviews. Obviously it's already won a prize. I think that might be kind of likely. There's usually some crossovers with different prizes. I've never read much from the Walter Scott Prize before, so I was really intrigued to hear about that from Shelley. I think she said that she's read a few things from the shortlist for this year and really enjoyed them. So that is another one that I'm adding to my own personal predictions list. So that is 12 books total. There's usually, the book a dozen is 13 books. It's 12 or 13, but like usually it's 13. So for what I thought could be kind of fun, because I don't know what I would have as my 13th book. There's either books that I haven't heard of, or like I don't know what is eligible. So I thought what could be fun to do for my 13th book is just do a complete random wildcard. And there's a list on Goodreads of Booker like eligible books, and there's about, like, how many are on this list? There is 167 books on this list that are apparently eligible for the Booker Prize this year. I'm not sure that this is completely totally accurate, but we're gonna see anyway. I'm going to get a random number generator from 1 to 167, and then I'm going to pick whatever is that number on this list and add it to my official predictions, because why not? Like, doing it randomly is probably going to be just as likely that I'd get something right than sitting here and trying to think about it, because my predictions are not going to be very accurate. But imagine if it actually is, if it does actually make it onto the long list, that would be just kind of funny. So let's do a random number generator now and see what book I would get. Okay, number between 1 and 167. Are you ready? Let's go. Oh, I thought it was going to do it on Google, but surely Google can do this, right? Here we go. No, it's just giving me websites to do it. Okay, let's roll. Okay, it said 8. That's going to be quite early on in the thing. I was hoping I'd get a... What is number 8? Let me scroll all the way back. Number 8. I'm not doing that. I'm not adding that one. It's the Chimamanda Ngozi. I'm not adding that. Let's do a different number. Let's do it. Okay, roll again. 124. Okay, right at the other end of the list. Let's see what is 124. I think this is on the second page, so let's have a look. What number is it? 124. We have Sleep by Honor Jones. Okay, what book is this? I'll put it up on here so you can see as well. This is a literary fiction, contemporary. It's about mental health, it's been tagged as. Oh, it's a debut novel about a newly divorced young mother forced to reckon the secrets of her own childhood as she returns to the family home one summer. Has anybody that read this that I follow? Yeah, we've had a few people read it or put it on their want to read. Only 2 people that I follow have actually read it. Someone's given it 4 stars, someone else has given it 2 stars. So I don't know what that's going to mean for me reading this. I don't know if I'm actually going to read it. Obviously I will if it actually does get longlisted. But yeah, this is the one that's going on my official longlist predictions, because why not? It's fun. So that is my 13 books. Maybe I'll try and put them all up. I'm going to regret this in editing mode, but I'm going to put all 13 up here so you can remember. There is one token man, I think, on this list. So, you know, diversity. I hope I at least get 2 right. If I get more than 2 right, I will be so shocked and so happy. So I'm so excited for the long list to be announced. It's announced at the end of this month on the 29th of July. So make some of your predictions in the comments as well, or comment on any of the books that I'm talking about. Tell me if they're not eligible, because like I'll take them off my predictions list, and I will do another video doing reacting as well to the actual announcement. That'll be really fun to do. And then of course I will be doing vlogs as well, reading some of these books. Yay! I love prize season. It's so much fun. I want to say a huge thank you to my Patreon Patreons. Thank you guys so much for all of your support towards me and this channel and making this small community just the best place on the internet to be. I love you guys so much. You're amazing. If you are interested in joining the Patreon, or maybe you've previously gone to check out what the Patreon is and the different tiers, I would like to say I have recently changed a couple of the tier options, so you get more bang for your buck now. So if you were interested and maybe you were looking for a specific perk that was higher, maybe check, because I have changed things around a little bit over on the Patreon. So other than that, I think that is all from me today. I think that's everything I wanted to say about my Booker Prize long list. Thank you so much for sitting here and building out this list with me. And yeah, remember to like this video if you haven't already and subscribe as well. And I will talk to you again soon. Bye!